Millions pre-registration, huge queues on global release day, one of the world's biggest publishers, and the unofficial title of Genshin Impact, main clone are all about Tower of Fantasy, the new anime phenomenon in the gacha genre. So did we really get a potential killer of Genshin Impact? I did an experiment. I played both Genshin and Tower of Fantasy at the same time, so I want to see that periodically you get confused where you are, where one game begins and the other ends. It's like you are crossing into each other, about the indictal and beautiful style, and the same emphasis on pretty chicks in lacy outfits. I don't even have to say it, you see it for yourself. But there's also repetition in the little things, right down to the fact that the characters are just as clingy to every vertical surface and try to climb up it, floating there underwear. And then they jump down and fly over the expanse of wings. The only difference being that in Tower of Fantasy they are mechanical, and even the player ID number is exactly the same at the bottom right of the screen. It's also similar in the way the standing choice between a girl and a boy as the protagonist is handled. It doesn't happen in the generation menu, but right during the fast-paced storyline, Mia, the little-eyed assistant TB, is reminiscent of Paimon from Genshin, only she was funnier and more talkative. The exploration of the world is based on the same principles. There are a huge number of chests and seemingly hard artifacts. To get to them, you need to take off, solve same puzzles, defeat strong enemies, or use the right elements, get a solid reward, and pump up the scale of the exploration of the location. Already in the first hours, we will shown a very cold region, where health constantly falls because of hypothermia, but there are fires which you can warm yourself. Exactly the same is in Genshin Impact, and there are dungeons in which you don't only have to fight, but also to overcome traps and solve puzzles. First, you pass them on standard difficulty level, and then you can try them on higher levels. Exactly the same terrain is dotted with the monster camps, and the hyenas in the Tower of Fantasy even look somewhat similar to the Helikers from Genshin. And around wanders, files and swims a variety of animals, growing mushrooms, blooming flowers, hanging fruit, collecting all this and getting the meat. Then you can make different recipes to restore health. Combat system is just the same, spectacular and comfortable, built on the alternate of melee, range attacks and magic, for which there are responsible skills, just as the key layer of gameplay devoted to leveling up the character, weapons and equipment with different search ratings from R to SSR. System upgrades the seem clear, convenient and almost automatic, and the development opportunities depend not only on the collected materials, but also on the level of the character. And in the same way, you are allowed to use duplicate items for upgrading. Of course, much is so also built in collecting particles to play as them. In Tower of Fantasy, they are called simulacra or mimics, and they too come in varying degrees of rarity. More importantly, they bring different weapons with them. The racing system from Genshin Impact here has evolved into the Vitality system, which works in a similar way. It imposed limits on the number of useful and important things you can do during the day. It is spent, for example, on accessing certain activities and opening cool chests, and replenished by buying special items in the game store. There were, of course, see a bunch of limited offers, for which you can spend many types of currencies earned for certain actions, and the most valuable and considered black crystals and crystal tanium, and the latter are allowed to buy only for money. Gacha system is also familiar. Mostly, but not only, black and gold cores are used there, and the more you spend, the higher the change for that something powerful and new will fall out. And for a certain amount, they give you a guarantee to get SSR rated items. Plus, of course, the Battle Pass, the system of daily and weekly quests, challenges, achievements, and all that make you spend half of hour collecting constantly falling out rewards. Yeah, It there in a bunch of other games too. We've seen the gacha system, enemy stalling snowy location, and similar principles of exploring the world and pumping up anything and everything. But you can fool this who have played Genshin. Tower of Fantasy is exactly like it, and you can literally feel it in your skin. It is clear that both the gacha system and the gameplay have their own nuances. For example, in Genshin Impact there is a team of heroes who differ among other things by their elemental specialization, and this combination gives an elemental resonance with its own bonuses. We can switch between them at any time, and in the game from level infinite the character is always the same, but the principle is actually the same. The elemental effects are different types of weapons, we switch between them depending on the situation, and the combination of killing weapons, which the character is equipped with, gives a resonance effect and bonuses. And when you switch, if enough energy is accumulated, a magic skill tied to the weapon is triggered. Or take Simulacra. In contrast to the Kolek from Genshin, the girls in Tower of Fantasy seems to differ from each other only in appearance and the weapons they bring with them. In addition, these weapons they then become common to all, and in Genshin all girls are personalities, with their own style of combat, unique skills and parameters, and they are separately pumped. But in fact, mimics here are also personalized who have character traits, they just need to be awakened, that in pumped with the gift. At a certain stage of this process, unique character skills properties are unlocked. In addition, there are personal quests, wolf stories associated with mimics. Clearly, the Hoyoyo scheme is better at this point, but in principle the essence is the same. But the system of upgrading equipment in Tower of Fantasy looks even more interesting and richer, mainly due to the mechanic of matrixes, which you can develop and install to the weapon to get additional effect and fine-tune it. Naturally, Tower of Fantasy has a different storyline and setting, fantastic and steampunk. There is a lot of cybernetics, robots and mechanism, and the action unfolds on the planet Hades, where the remnants of humanity have fled from the dying Earth. Here they try to use the powerful energy of the Omnium, and to this end built the titular tower to capture the comet Mara, where Omnium as oil in the Saudi Arabia. After disaster struck because of this, the Hykros organization was created, determined to take control of the use of dangerous energy, including in experiments. The plot revolves around the confrontation between Hykros and those who oppose it, but the main difference is quite different. In fact, Tower of Fantasy is almost a full-fledged RPG. In Genshin, there is a possibility of cooperative passing through dungeon and exploring location, but you must agree to let another user into your world. But in the project from level infinite, other players run together with you, littering the chat with advertisement about the equipments or of such and such a group. Yes, there's a guild system with its own levels, activities and adventures, and battles between users, both in form of duels, and in the format of battles in the arena within the ranking Apex League. Accordingly, there is also a system of ranking, but not only about PvP, and almost for all occasions who has a higher level, who collected more achievements, who best proved himself in the guild activities and so on. And there are joint raids, including on the worst bosses, modes of joint scrubbing dungeons and confronting waves of enemies. From time to time, gates are opened in the world through which the monsters are trying to get with them too. You can fight together. Some currencies are given only for the joint action and for helping the brothers in intelligence. There's a special program of mutual assistance, and even during the usual exploration of the world you can come across activities that require at least 2 people. Why is Tower of Fantasy an almost full-fledged MMORPG? Because there are no actions, no weddings, no crowds of players build up trading floors, and no other delight of conventional online RPG, including the fact their users are divided not only by servers, but also by channels. I hope it will remain so. Why do I hope it stays that way? Because right now Tower Fantasy embodies an almost perfect balance between everything good and engaging about Genshin Impact and the more intense, non-cooperative oriented MMO. It can be played as a single-player adventure. It's interesting not only to explore the world, where a lot of secrets and challenges are hidden, but also to follow the story. We see good directing, great clips, emotions, drama, plus different missions, shooting enemies in the sky with a jetpack, or releasing important characters from detention dressed as Guard. Yes, the content is generally less than in Genshin, and the side missions are simple. Many of the Mimic Girls stories are still in development, but the Hoyoverse project has been around longer. Tower of Fantasy just went into the global release. But there are more adult drama in the story, and a lot of fanfare and variety in everything else. You can race around on board, race around on a motorcycle, or even on a Rubik Cube. And the character is allowed to put cube relics on which help in battles or in solving riddles. Access skeletons, mechanical arms, rocket launchers, shields, and so on. The only thing that immediately strikes the eye is that in the Tower of Fantasy, the first 25 levels, there is almost no resistance from enemies in the story and side missions, and you have to look for it in raids and cooperative activities. This is due to a difference in ideological approach, as in Diablo Immortal the story here serves as kind of prologue before the main challenges. It's clear what goals that Tencent bosses have set, to poach some of Genshin Impact audience by offering the same level of a single-player content gameplay, visuals, and adding an early full-fledged RPG to it. But I don't think Tower of Fantasy is going to be a Genshin killer. Maybe someone who is already bored with a game from Hoyoverse or lacks skills and PvP, there we go. But not for a long time, because for example in PvP and guilds absolutely have to donate. Besides, Genshin Impact also does not stand still, raising global updates, and in general the story content there today is more rich and balanced. I thought it would be too superficial to say, so this is for single players, and this is for fun for MMORPG. In fact, it's more complicated than that. Both Genshin Impact has cooperative activities and Tower of Fantasy has a pretty decent single-player game. So I think both hits will guilty serve the audience as long as there is enough for everyone. And then what happens next we will see. I think there will be a very interesting struggle, and for us it's only for the best. For example, I'm going to stay there and there.